Joseph-Kotrie-Monson is with me now, Director of Mary Monson's Solicitors on Fleet Street. They specialise in serious criminal offences. And a very good morning to you, Joseph. Lifelong anonymity. Do you think this was the right decision from the judge?
Well, I think grudgingly, I think it probably was. It might be useful, Andrew, if I give you some background on this. These anonymity orders aren't handed out like sweets. This case brings the number of people historically in the last 50 years provided with anonymity orders to a total of six in total in the 50 years or so since they've existed. Now, we don't have the Judge Sir Geoffrey Boss's reasons yet, just the ruling from yesterday. But what we do have, of course, is the previous rulings, and the rationale is fairly clear. Courts have been prepared to allow anonymity on the rare basis that there is a real risk of physical danger to disclosing the identity of the person, which outweighs any public interest, crucially. Because we all know justice should be seen to be done. We like transparency in our system. It's worth adding, however, that usually, perhaps surprisingly, these very rare applications are usually made with the support of the Home Secretary, and historically they've had support from all major political parties in the specific cases. And these are the same organisations. These are the same mechanisms that, of course, have imprisoned these people in the first place. It's also right that claims against anonymity are usually brought by the tabloid press, and of course their goals in bringing this to the public's attention, if you think about it, bringing the names of these people, are perhaps less noble. Of course, there's the concerns of the family of the victim, who occasionally, in some of these cases, have wanted this information to be out. But generally speaking, the senior police officers who were responsible for putting these young people away in the first place are vehemently against it, and there have been recorded comments on it. As you've heard from me, judges have to be satisfied as to the real possibility of physical harm. In the case of John Venables, for example, about which probably most is written, which was one of the Jamie Bulger killers, that risk was obvious. At the time, Andrew, if you cast your mind back, there was national shock, fairly understandable local anger, which had been incredibly intense. But the press vitriol which accompanied it had been, arguably at best fairly irresponsible, and at worst verging on grotesque.
Well, Joseph, so let me just cut in just for a second. When you've got a lifetime anonymity order like these two boys, when you've got a lifetime anonymity, we'll be paying for them to remain anonymous and have a new identity and to be set up somewhere forever. Now, what about the rights of everybody else who might have to work with these two? We might have to have our children in the same vicinities. What about our rights?
I think it's important to distinguish between lifetime anonymity and lifetime protection. Lifetime anonymity does not cost the public anything, but of course lifetime protection does. And we have a principle in this country. It's a principle that most of us subscribe to, and that's that we have a parliament that makes laws. We have judges we have juries that decide who's guilty, and we have judges who hand out sentences. And once that sentence is over, the punishment is over. And no matter how horrific these crimes are, if we are to live in a civilized society, well, we don't have a secondary system of public vigilantism, which is the only purpose that disclosure in these rare cases of these people's names could serve. A secondary vigilante system that punishes after we have a proper, civilized and considered justice system somehow replacing it.
You might not know the answer to this, but can they do any job now? Can they go about their lives? If they go and apply for a job somewhere, can the people who they are applying to a job to, can they know what these people have done in the past? Will it count against them, or is the sentence served?
When you have a criminal record, it follows you. Generally speaking, with serious offences, it follows you for life. The practical questions, of course, are, for example, in the Jamie Bulger case, we had a situation where the photographs of these two young boys were published. And what you had is a situation where not only was it, is it obviously very difficult from their point of view to remain anonymous from the point of view of being recognised. But there was even a witch hunt campaign against somebody who was not John Venables, who looked apparently like John Venables. 2,100 people signed up to a Facebook group saying, is this guy John Venables? And he became incredibly worried about the safety of his family, completely unconnected with the case, and whether vigilantes would be coming to his door. You know, there is a very important principle that we let the justice system, if we don't like it, we vote in politicians who bring in a new justice system or modify it. But we have a justice system that does its job. Vigilantism, I'm afraid that's not the type of society we live in.
Joseph, you'll not be surprised to know that the messages which are coming in and the phone calls no doubt will echo this, fairly critical of the judge. Make them hide away for the rest of their worthless lives. There was no mercy for the two children. This is the way people feel.
They'll be doing that anyway, won't they?
Yeah, they said anyway. That was Tony. No sympathy for them, says Pablo, but I don't want to see vigilantes ending up in jail, which they would if they took the law into their own hands. Do you think we've become a lynch mob in this society we live in?
I think there is a natural tendency, and a very understandable one, towards anger when we hear of such horrific, reprehensible crimes that don't just affect the lives of the victims, but their parents, their families, and tear the heart out of families and communities. You know, it's completely understandable. You know, what we're saying here is that people should be stepping back. We should be making decisions that are good for society, not that cause more problems. No police officer who has put these people away in the first place wants to be investigating their murder and putting somebody a new defendant away for vigilantism relating to some attack on them.
Joseph,
it's just not how we do things.
Joseph-Kotrie-Monson, thank you very much indeed. I know, Joseph, you're booked to do the paper review on the 31st of December, the last day of this funny old year. Thank you very much indeed for your input.